Over here.
Thanks.
Over here. What is Liberland?
So I was one of the first settlers, and it's an idea of building a libertarian anarchist paradise, a micronation between Serbia and Croatia. They didn't claim the country, the piece of land, but in the end, when we wanted to go there, I mean, they still disagreed and put everyone in jail. So.
Oh boy, that story did not end well. Hopefully your panel goes a lot better. Just kidding. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're going to be talking about technology. I'm going to leave the stage to you. Please introduce your panelists to the audience.
Thanks. Okay, guys. Come out, please. So we have Julien Bouteloup. He's from the British Blockchain Association, building Flying Carpet, a decentralized, autonomous transportation system. Sorry. Thanks. We have Dr. Petar Tsankov from the ETH. He's a researcher at ECE Center, which does blockchain network security research, and the co-founder of ChainSecurity. And we have Harvey from Lamassu. He's in Bitcoin since 6 years and founder of Lamassu, which is the first Bitcoin ATM company. Okay. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So starting with the first question, I want to ask all of you, what is the most interesting new technology in the blockchain space? And especially, what's the real world problem that technology is actually solving?
All right, I'll start. I think one of the most interesting projects that's recently launched is a project called MakerDAO. And this is a project running on the Ethereum blockchain. And the idea is to create a stable coin, so a coin that price volatility is pegged more or less to the US dollar. And the amazing thing is it's actually been working for a few months now. It's a completely decentralized system. And what it's able to do is to provide a coin in the blockchain space that has a price volatility that's very low. The real-world consequences of that are pretty amazing if you think about it. So that's going to be a very interesting experiment.
Okay, and the volatility of this asset is not correlated to the underlying technology?
No, it's pegged to the US dollar. So they have a very complex system of how to achieve that. It's basically a dual coin. One coin is more speculative, so it'll act a little bit more like what we're used to in Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then the other side of the coin is something called the DAI coin, and that's essentially pegged to the US dollar. And if you look at the exchange rate on the different exchanges, you'll just see DAI, and its price will be $1 every day.
Okay, but just one more question. I imagine the transaction fee is still to be paid in the underlying technology. So, I mean, then you might have a stable currency, but the fees of your transaction are fluctuating together with the Ethereum price.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, since it is on the Ethereum blockchain, the transaction fees will still be in Ether. So that's true. If the prices go up, the transaction fees could get a little bit more expensive. That's going to be one of the challenges for them, I think.
How big is their contract, by the way? Because this to implement all this functionality, because that's all on-chain handled, correct?
Yeah, many lines of code. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's probably one of the more complex contracts.
It's been there for 4 years. It's not a recent project.
It's not recent at all, but it's been out. I think they've been working on it since 2015.
Yeah.
But they just launched on mainnet a few months ago.
And it's not only pegged by US dollar, it's actually pegged against all the different crypto online. That's what they do, like, for trying to stabilize the coin.
They're planning on different pegs in the future. Right now, it's US dollar.
Okay, interesting.
So, yeah. So basically, I don't want to name a particular project, but I'm very passionate about, in general, security and privacy on the blockchain. And what I see happening in this space is like really going kind of to the next level, where we see like much more robust secure projects, because the community is moving forward, but also providers like really pushing automation and tools to basically provide this. We saw in the last few days there were a few also, again, spectacular failures in smart contracts, like overflows and people creating tokens out of nothing, or BGP hijacks and stealing things. So there's, I think 2018 is the year where we're going to kind of remove all these low-hanging fruits, like the basic issues, and we'll go to a next level where things are, actually more secure and open, because at the end, that's, I think, very important for the community, because they're the ones that are out there.
What do you think the tools will be for enhancing security within smart contracts and within the ecosystem?
Yeah, so what I really think will happen.
Formal verification.
Well, that's the ultimate goal, and I think to really make this usable, ultimately you want to have kind of like a system where the security auditor would interact with it. So it would say like, hey, can the crowd sell more than 1 million tokens? And then the system would have to like automatically understand what this contract actually does, and be able to answer. Because I mean, there were many small projects that are fairly easy to kind of check manually. This was feasible until today, but in 2018 we really see like big projects coming out, like pretty serious projects that if you want to like manually go through this and understand what's going on, that's just not going to work. So I think. Yeah, in general, to keep the ecosystem running, we have to make sure we don't have more of those failures over time. So, yeah.
Yeah, and a big problem in the blockchain space is that if there's a problem in the contract, you can't just go to the court and reverse it. So this is sometimes pretty irreversible.
That's what Parity is trying to do.
That's what Parity is trying to do, and they have to change the consensus of the coin, do a hard fork or something like that. It's not just a matter of bringing a court case against somebody.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it's very important to get it right in the first place.
Exactly. So if you want to like really keep it stable, I mean, you have to like avoid these issues. Otherwise, yeah, it's a problem.
Was it easy for you other than your own project?
So myself, 'cause my background is machine learning, AI, and decentralized system back in 2009. So I really do think that the potential of blockchain is also the integration of AI and machine learning into it. So being able to build some decentralized AI agent that will be able to first, for example, as you were mentioning, to verify some smart contract based on security aspect, but also providing kind of privacy for people. So having like kind of an AI avatar attached to your profile that will provide some security, and also because we're moving to a world that the speed that every information is actually being communicated at the speed of light. So you as a human, you cannot catch up what's going on. So I think that as a patroness, being responsible for yourself and the AI, and also through the blockchain, I think this is a very important aspect that I'm very interested in. And also blockchain for decentralized economy, emerging market. So people, for example, for the 2 billion people that are unbanked, I think this will provide very different use cases for them to have access to healthcare, have access to insurance. Easter-risk was talking about it. I'm a big fan of the project. So yeah, I think like security aspect, also being able to use blockchain without actually knowing this is actually a blockchain. I think the future of blockchain is when you will not know this is a blockchain. Because at the end of the day, blockchain is just a database. Decentralized one, but it's like people saying that I'm using a Oracle or something. So that's what I think.
Okay. So regarding security, Peter, I mean, one topic that is very much hyped right now are decentralized exchange.
Yeah.
Do you think we can build decentralized exchanges that are more secure than the centralized exchanges?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm not too much into exactly what the state of decentralized exchanges is, but I think what would be very cool there is somehow to integrate closer with the security providers to make it like more visible to people. What they're actually trading and what's the what they're buying. Like I think that would be very cool. Like the technical challenge, exactly like how to building. Decentralized exchange it's an orthogonal topic to this. Yeah. I
mean, decentralized systems are already more secure than centralized system because you don't have the middleman, so they are more secure. But the problem is the UI, the user interface. The problem is how you can keep as an individual that has no knowledge about private key and public key, how you can protect your public key and your private information to not being hacked. But at the end of the day, a decentralized system is more secure than a centralized system.
But you also open up more attack vectors when you're.
Well, you open more attack. You actually you reduce the attack vector. Why? Because as a centralized data server, which is a centralized exchange market, in order to hack the money in the exchange market, you need to attack the exchange market, the centralized point of failure. Mm-hmm. But if you decentralize in order to attack and steal a lot of money, you will need to get a lot of money from different individuals that are actually using the decentralized exchange market. It's probably easier to do that, but you will only be able to steal money from one guy rather than actually stealing a lot of money from the centralized system. But the problem is how those people can access those decentralized system. Because if they use MetaMask or like some tool online, first you need to be aware of those tools, and then secondly, you need to make sure that you keep your private key under the carpet, which is not very, it's not very user interface.
I guess this is maybe also related to, the recent attack that was like a few days ago where basically they hijacked a BGP route to my Ether wallet, and then they were able to, observe all the traffic going on with decentralized exchanges. Would this could be one level harder maybe, that it would be more local because you would not have like, okay, let me hijack this IP
Yeah,
there.
and also if decentralized system, decentralized system, first you don't know where the decentralized system is running from. So it's very difficult to sniff into the different transactions. To actually, you will need, for example, to hack just one channel, which is from the individual to the exchange market, decentralized exchange market. So for example, I know because I've been in the Bitcoin since 2009, and I was one of the first ones to get hacked on the Mt. Gox. So I've got a long history about Bitcoin and Mt. Gox. And Mt. Gox, for example, I lost pretty much all my Bitcoins in Mt. Gox because it's a centralized system. And the hacker, the Russian guy, just got into it, stole all the password, the private keys, just into a file. And then when you get this access to the information, like the question you have to ask yourself is at the moment, are all the centralized systems secure? You're not 100% sure, because if someone steals the private key over there, will the hacker steal the money? Not really. You just wait, because the centralized system over there is just his bank account. Mm-hmm. So I think this is a very big risk at the moment. We don't even know if the private key if the centralized system at the moment are secure or not.
So Josh, when we see every new project that comes up has its own token nowadays, and often if you look from a technical perspective, they might not need a token. Especially when it comes to, now we see these technologies where you take away the asset and the technology, like rootstock and Lightning, you add second layers. Do you think in 10 years we will not have 2,000 cryptocurrencies, but maybe only 10 or only one?
I think we'll still have 2,000 cryptocurrencies because it's very hard to stop these new cryptocurrencies from coming out. And I think in some sense it's important because we do need a lot of competition of different ways of doing things. So Rootstock, for the audience, is a very interesting project where they're doing a side chain or drive chain to Bitcoin, which means there's a two-way peg. So they're basically taking the values of the Bitcoin. They're not creating their own coin, which has its own value. And Bitcoin has been very successful at that. So why reinvent that wheel? But on the other hand, you can experiment with any other kind of blockchain technology without having to change the internals of Bitcoin. So it's a very interesting project. They're starting a staged launch now. And it's going to be very exciting to see how that works and how it competes with Ethereum. But on the other hand, Ethereum's been running for a few years now because they didn't have to build all that infrastructure. So we've gotten a lot of knowledge about smart contracts in that time period. And it's not a proven concept yet. The side chains are not a proven concept. They're just being tested right now. Lightning Network is another fascinating experiment. It's a different thing. It's a second layer built on top of Bitcoin, which is more of a payment system. So something more like SEPA or SWIFT on top of the Bitcoin clearing technology. And that lets you do instant payments. It lets you do very, very inexpensive payments. Last year we saw the Bitcoin transaction fees were going up to something like $50 per transaction, which made it almost unusable for most transactions. Lightning Network is fractions of a cent for any payment. But again, it's a very complex project. There are a lot of unknowns, and we have to see how that works out. So in the meantime, we definitely need a lot of competition and just see what works best.
But I don't agree that I think tokens they're limited in the time frame. I don't see we will have a lot of different tokens, like 2,000 or 10,000 tokens in the future, because stablecoin will kill all of them. But I do believe that maybe the underlying technology, the protocol you will have some tokens, like you mentioned, but the user will never access to those tokens. So I think that as a user, you will just go online and you will pay with, for example, a MakerDAO token or like a stablecoin, which is one-to-one. A user will always access to one-to-one, and then at the end of the day, maybe underlying technology will be a token. So probably you have like 10,000 tokens, but the user will never see them.
Well, that's important, right?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, I mean, you cannot just, okay, let's say you want to use Facebook, you need the Facebook token. You want to use Twitter, you want to have the Twitter token. You don't want this at the end of the day. Probably have a wallet, a stable token, and maybe you got like some different shitty token inside. But yeah, sorry, I'm really. But yeah, I think there will be a main token on the top that probably control all the tokens inside for usability.
I guess it's important. I mean, at the end of the blockchain, it's a decentralized, trusted machine, right? So basically, all these things they could be there. It's like you said, right? But it's good to be like more hidden and to actually be used for applications where what the blockchain is good for, right?
It's like the internet rush. 99% they were all bad, but then it created Amazon, it created Yahoo. I think we're having the same.
Yeah, exactly. That's why you kind of need a lot of experimentation, and then the best stuff floats up to the top.
So what's the best stuff?
Well, I mentioned MakerDAO. That's one of my favorites.
Okay.
But, yeah, there are a few others, not that many.
I think as you mentioned, stablecoin is basically the holy grail of money. Because how do you provide something that is stable and never been built before in the history of humanity? So I think it's, because even if you get assets, you can always replicate assets. But a stable coin is something that you will never be able normally to replicate, and it's kind of like, mathematically speaking, is very advanced.
Okay, I think we end with that. The stable coin is the holy grail of money and not some pump coin. Thanks a lot, guys, and
Cool.
yeah, see you later.
Thank you. Cool.
Excellent. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.